Hello friends. Today we would discuss some basic concepts related to die design. We will start with certain discussion on the basic die cutting operations. As we know, blanking and piercing are the most common die cutting operations. Usually during die cutting operations, the material that we use, that strip is known as a stock. During a blanking operation, the part that is removed from this strip is the workpiece, and the strip itself becomes a scrap later on. Whereas in case of a piercing operation, the material that is cut from the stock is the scrap and the strip remains as a workpiece. Generally, piercing operation is accompanied by a blanking operation either before or after or at the same time during most of the die cutting operations. Another operation is known as a lenching operation. This is a combined operation wherein bending and cutting are carried out simultaneously along a line in the work material. During this operation, no metal is cut and removed from the stock. The punch is designed in such a way that it is able to cut on two or three sides and bend the material along the fourth side. Cutting off and parting of operations are generally the final stage operations carried out on a progressive die. The cutting off operation separates the work material along a line in a single line cut, whereas in case of a parting off operation, the work material is cut along a line using a double line cut. This is clear from the figure. Notching is another operation wherein the metal is removed from either or both edges of the strip. This operation helps to shape the outer contours of the workpiece, generally in progressive die operation. Shaving operation is a secondary operation. During this operation, the surface cut by the previous operation is finished smoothly to accurate dimensions. Now we would discuss how the cutting action takes place in a punch or die operation. Initially, with the movement of the ram, the punch comes into contact with the work material which is supported by the die, and this would build up certain pressure. When the elastic limit of the material is exceeded, then plastic deformation would start. The punch tries to penetrate in the work material and the blank is displaced into the die opening. This would result into the formation of a radius over the top edge of the hole and the bottom of the blank. Further continuation of the punching pressure would initiate the fracture at the cutting edges of the punch as well as the die. This fracture would continue and will eventually meet, and hence the remaining portion of the blank edge will be broken away. In order to ensure proper cutting operation, die clearance is provided. Clearance is defined as the intentional space between the punch cutting edge and the die cutting edge. Clearance is always expressed as the amount of clearance per side. It is necessary to provide clearance so as to allow the fractures to meet when the break occurs. The amount of clearance depends upon the type of work material as well as its thickness and hardness. Insufficient clearance creates secondary shear cracks, as a result of which the break is not smooth. A partial break occurs and secondary break connects the original or main fractures. This would effectively increase the punching force and shorten the tool life. Whereas if the clearance is just sufficient, then the shear cracks that come into existence join with each other, resulting into proper balance of the punching force and ensure good part quality and tool life. Now generally in blanking operation, the die size is taken as the blank size and the punch is made smaller than the die by providing the necessary clearance between the die and the punch. So the die size is equal to blank size. So the punch size is calculated as the blank size minus the double of clearance. Whereas in a piercing operation, the punch size is taken as the blank size and hence the die size becomes the addition of twice of clearance with this punch or the blank size. When the cutting operation is completed, a small amount of spring back occurs. This spring back causes the remaining hole in the stock material to reduce in diameter and grip tightly on the punch. Further, the blanked part increases in diameter and it grips tightly inside the die opening. A small draft is provided below the die opening to prevent the blanked part from sticking inside the die wall. Such type of draft is called the angular clearance and it is expressed in degrees per side. Angular clearance is necessary to prevent the back pressure caused by the blank buildup. The recommended values of angular clearance ranges from 0.25 degree to 2 degree per side. As discussed earlier, the force that causes the blank to grip inside the die walls also causes the stock material to grip around the punch. The stock material will rise with the punch as the ram of the press is raised unless some means of stripping this stock material from the punch is provided. For this, we use the stripper plates. There are two basic types of stripper plates, the fixed stripper and the spring loaded or the movable stripper. The amount of pressure required to strip the stock material from the punch varies from 5 to 20% of the cutting force requirements. The images of both type of strippers visible here are self-explanatory. In case of a fixed or a stationary stripper, the stripper plate is fixed with the die block. So as the punch carries out the cutting operation and when it returns back with the ram of the press, the stock material is prevented from rising with the punch and hence the stripper plate helps us to strip the stock material from the punch. Whereas in case of a movable or a spring loaded stripper, the stripper plate is attached with the help of a spring with the punch assembly and not with the die assembly. This movable stripper comes into contact with the stock material when the punch comes into contact. While the punch carries out the cutting operation, because of the spring force, the stripper plate would hold the blank and the stock material at its position, and when the punch returns with the ram movement, the spring force is slowly released and the stripper plate is lifted when the punch loses contact with the stock material. Now we will have some understanding of cutting force and the ways of reducing it. Cutting force is the force that is required to penetrate into the stock material with the help of the punch. There are different ways of specifying or calculating cutting force during the die operation, but the most simple and widely used equation is a product of shear strength perimeter and the thickness of the stock material. So F is equal to SPT. S is the shear strength, which is the force necessary to cut a unit area by direct shearing action. P is the perimeter or the length of the cutting edge, and T is the thickness of the stock material. The value of shear strength is available from design data. The perimeter can be calculated from the drawing, and the thickness of the stock material is already available. Now there are two different ways in which the cutting forces can be reduced. The first one being the use of stepped punches. The method of reducing cutting forces is to create the steps along the punch length. A punch is progressively shortened by almost one stock material thickness. This would result into distributing the force that is generated during the blanking or the piercing operation that applies on the punch, and that is how we would be reducing the total force requirement at a time. The other method is by grinding the face of the punch or the die by a small shear angle. In this case, along with the horizontal, either a shear angle is provided on the punch surface or on the die surface. This will effectively reduce the contact area when shearing process takes place. So shearing angle may be applied either to the punch or to the die depending on whether the operation is blanking or piercing, because shear will distort the work material. The shear angle during a blanking operation is provided on the die surface, whereas for a piercing operation the shear angle is given to the punch member. Now we will discuss different types of dies. Dies are classified based on different ways. One of the way of classifying the dies are based on the type of operation that they perform. Cutting die is one such die which is used to cut the metal. Cutting dies utilize the cutting or shearing action and cut a portion of the strip. The common cutting dies are blanking dies, piercing dies, perforating dies, etc. The other type of die are known as forming dies. These dies do not cut the material, but they change the appearance of the blank without removing any stock out of the strip. This type of dies include the dies meant for bending, drawing, squeezing, etc. The another way of classifying the dies is based on the method of the construction of the dies. The simplest type of die is known as a simple die. Simple die is also known as a single action die. These dies perform single operation during each stroke of the press slide. The operation may be one of the operations that we have listed under the cutting die or on the forming die. The most widely used type of die is the second type, which is named as compound dies. In compound dies, two or more operations are performed at one station during one stroke length. These type of dies are also considered as cutting tools because they carry out cutting operation. Now if we see this figure, a compound die is shown in which a washer is cut by one stroke of the press. Here we can see that there are two different punches. One is meant for the blanking operation, the other is meant for the piercing operation. So during a single movement of the press, both the punches, the blanking punch which is attached with the punch assembly and the piercing punch which is attached inside the die assembly, work simultaneously to cut a washer. The third type of die is known as a progressive die. As the name suggests, a progressive die has a series of operations. At each station, an operation is performed on the workpiece during a stroke of the press. Between two different strokes, the piece in the metal strip is transferred to the next station. A finished workpiece is made at the end of each stroke of the press. When a piercing punch is used, it cuts a hole in the stock material, whereas a blanking punch blanks out a portion of metal into which a hole has been pierced at the previous station. So, in a way, we create the same type of washer which we talked about in the compound die, but here the first operation is performed is the punching operation, the piercing operation, and the second operation that is carried out is the blanking operation. So after the first stroke there is only one hole which is punched, and after the movement of the strip further, a finished washer is obtained from each stroke of the press. The next interesting topic is the strip layout. Strip layout plays an important role, especially in case of press tool designs. Since the components are to be ultimately blanked out of a stock strip, adequate care has to be taken while designing the dies for utilizing as much stock as possible. It is also necessary in case of progressive dies to ensure continuous handling of the scrap on the die block, which means that the scrap strip should have sufficient strength. Strip decides the economic utilization of the workpiece and helps in decreasing the cost of the job and reduction in production time by increasing the number of components that are produced per unit length of the stock strip. If you see this image, we consider a stock strip which has a width W, thickness T, and L as the length. When we put up any blanking portion on the strip, we try to ensure that a front scrap portion capital A is left before the first adjustment of the blank. It also needs to be ensured that the distance between the part and the strip edge has to be maintained as B along the width. So on both sides there would be 2B as the scrap portion. The distance between two successive blanking part is denoted indirectly with the help of the term C, which is the distance from one point on the part to the corresponding point on the next part. The width and the length of the part ideally are denoted by H and I. Now there are certain thumb rules which are provided to make the calculations. Here it is provided as per one thumb rule. The value of B is taken as 1.25 times the value of thickness when the value of C is less than 2 inches, and the same value of B is taken as 1.5 times the thickness when the value of C is greater than 2 inches. The another thumb rule that is used to calculate the value of A is taken as T plus 0.015H. Similarly, the value for W is denoted as H plus 2B, which is clear from the image, and the value of C is taken as I plus B from certain thumb rule. Over and above this, there are different thumb rules which are provided by different researchers, and accordingly, a selection has to be made as to which rule is applied for a particular case of the combination of the type of punch and die assembly, as well as the type of material of the stock, as well as its thickness. The best way of utilizing the strip is by providing a layout wherein the percentage utilization of the material for the blanking or piercing operation is maximum. So certain equation is used wherein percentage utilization is taken as a ratio of area of one blank material. If you see in the image, that value comes out to be H into I. So, and the denominator has lead into breadth, where lead is taken as I plus A and the breadth is taken as H plus 2B. So, in a way, if you can assume the total portion of the strip wherein one blanking portion is accommodated is considered, and out of that portion, the amount of portion that is utilized for creating the blank part would be the numerator. So, in a way, if we are utilizing something that is more than 70%, then that comes out to be a good layout. If we consider the same image, here the blanking portion is rectangular in shape and which is adjusted vertically. Now, if the same blanking portion is adjusted horizontally, then probably two different shapes can be adjusted one after the other along the same portion. However, in that case, two punches may be required during a single stroke. So, altogether, the design might change. So, the strip layout does not only depend on the maximum percentage utilization, but there are other criteria also which are being taken into consideration while finalizing the ideal strip layout for a given case. The next important concept is related to the punch design. The size of the punch is calculated by subtracting the total clearance from the desired size of the blank. The minimum length of the punch should be adjusted in such a way that it extends far enough into the die block to ensure complete shearing of the part. There are different thumb rules and equations provided by different researchers for calculating the length of a punch. One such relationship is shown here, wherein L is equal to 7.5 into square root of d cube by t. Now, if suppose for any condition, if the value of L comes out to be 55, then in such a case, we would prefer to select at least 60 mm length. Hence, for any length based on the calculation which comes below 60, a minimum of 60 mm up to 85 mm is preferred. Punches are generally made up of good grade of tool steel, hardened and ground. For small punches, backup plates or pressure plates are also provided between the punch plate and the punch holder. This plate fits closely over the body of the punch and holds it in proper relative position. Generally, a backup plate is provided when the compressive stress on the punch exceeds 245 Newton per mm square. There is a thumb rule also wherein a backup plate is provided when the punch diameter is less than 4 times the stock thickness. Now, when we consider the punch design, we also need to consider the area that is to be pierced or blanked and the pressure that is required to penetrate the workpiece material. This area to be pierced or blanked determines the method of mounting the punches. There are various types of punches that are usually used. These are plain punches, pedestal punches, and perforator type of punches. Plain punches are simply a block of hardened tool steel which is shaped to conform to the cutting contour. These plain punches are mounted directly onto the punch holder of the die set or onto a flat punch plate if we require extra length. The second type of punches are pedestal punches. Pedestal punches are constructed by machining the shape of the punch in a block of steel in such a way that leaves a flange around the base of the punch, which is quite larger than its cutting face area. Large base and solid construction of pedestal punches increases the stability. Cutting forces are dispersed through the large base, which makes the pedestal design very much applicable for heavy cutting loads. The third type of punches are perforator type of punches. These perforator punches are considered insert punches whose cutting face diameter is around 25 mm or even less than that. These type of punches are manufactured in a wide variety of shapes and size by the industries. These are hence fabricated and purchased as a standard commercial item. There are different ways in which the punches are mounted on the die assembly. The punches are mounted in the punch plates, wherein the punch plates serve to hold position and strengthen the punch. Perforator type of punches are easily mounted in punch plates. However, rectangular and odd shaped punches are not that easily able to get mounted on the punch plates. If the size of the punch is small, then such small punches can be mounted in the punch plate with screws to increase its rigidity. Steel head punch or the bevel head punch are mounted in the punch plate without any screw and dowels, as the shape itself prevents the punch from getting pulled from the punch plate or even rotating. The way in which perforator type of punches are mounted is slightly different, where production runs are small and there is a possibility of frequent changes. The punch is fixed in a punch plate by using a set screw from the side flat which is machined on the body. This holds the punch and prevents its rotation. Sometimes the punch head is fitted securely into the recess that is generated in the punch plate itself. If frequently changing of punch is required in the same die block, then ball retainer punch can be used. With this, we come to the end of the discussion on various basic concepts of die design. Over and above this discussion, I suggest to refer the video lectures provided on NPTEL for specifically the die design. I also suggest to use the book Tool Design by Donaldson for understanding different types of thumb rules. Thank you very much.